Hey everyone, hey everyone. We're hanging out with Any.Do's Omo for six today. He's if you've probably heard of how much I like Any.Do, particularly the UI. I've spoken about it a number of times in the past. So, hey Omar.
Hello, hi. Thank you.
Hey. So the first question that I'd like to ask you is, and this is something that interests a lot of people. What made you go against the tide, so to speak, by developing for Android first?
Okay. Yeah. So that's a question that I'm actually getting quite a lot about. So there are several reasons. One was the growth rate of Android. As you know, Android is like 50% of the market currently, and the growth rate of Android, even since the early days of Android, was just several times bigger than the iOS. So that was a reason that it was very important for us. The second thing is that the Android platform actually allows you to do kind of like OS integrations and smarter things and deep integrations with some parts of the different applications and such that you can't really do on iOS. The third thing is that at the time we started developing for Android, there was more than 5 times more apps on iOS than Android. So it was easier for us to get noticed by users and and actually get featured by Android. So that's another thing that was very critical for us. And the last thing that I think was very important was the Android is it's an open platform. It's not closed. Very important was the Android is it's an open platform. It's not closed garden like Apple's. You can decide whatever you want to do. You make your own rule, build your own software by the guidelines of the platform, but still you can do whatever you want, and you don't really need to be afraid that someday Apple might take you out of the market or whatever. You can be rest sure that everything will be okay. If you develop an amazing app, Google will endorse it over time. So I think that was one of the major reasons where we chose to start with Android.
Yeah. So another thing that's interested me for quite a while is, what sets Any.Do apart from the other to-do apps that are around that makes it a startup and not simply a product?
Any.Do is there are two answers to this question. One is that it's a very simple product that it varies from all other to-dos by simplicity, yet it's very powerful. There are a lot of things you can do with Any.Do that are hidden under a very simple user interface. So that's the first part of the answer. Second part of the answer, that Any.Do, as it's now in the Android market and in other places, is just a friction of what Any.Do really wants to be. Any.Do has a very big ambition, and we try to build something that is going to change the world in the terms of how people get things done. And so our to-do is just it's just the early bird for what we're building on the back end. I can give you an example. We are currently 10 people at the office now. Just 2 of them are working on consumer-facing products. The rest are working on other things that are the future of Any.Do. That's what makes it a startup. We're building a very interesting and compelling technology on the back end that is going to change over time the way people get things done. That's what makes it a startup. And that's what makes it being able to raise funding, etc.
So how many team members does Any.Do have right now?
So we're currently 10 people. The vast majority of them are software engineers. So out of the 10 people, 8 of them are software engineers. And we have here some, one of our employees, for example, had a PhD in computational linguistics from Carnegie Mellon and MIT, for example, which shows you, the depth of the technology that we're trying to build on the back end.
And how many Android developers? 2 of them?
1.
Okay, just one. Who's that?
Woody.
Okay. So, if there's been one criticism of AnyDo from the users, and I personally agree on it a bit, is considering that the app was until very recently Android only. Why is Facebook login the only available option and not Google?
I think that we from some market research that we've done, we've seen that Facebook authentication gives you a lot of great opportunities for any as a company, startup that tries to do something very big. That the information that you can get from Facebook Connect and from your social graph is much more powerful than the information you can get from a Google login. And so in terms of where AnyDo is heading in the future, it was very important for us to ask users to put in their Facebook Connect with the wish that they'll understand that it's an important part of AnyDo's future and the way they're going to use the product. So that's the main reason.
Understandable. And additionally, some of the power users have been disappointed with the lack of options when it comes to repetitions. So this is a question that's come up quite a few times for us in the past.
Yeah, we're working on that. If you look on several types of apps, from Google Calendar to other to-do apps, in our opinion, no one actually solved the repeatable tasks, repeatable meetings kind of feature. It's a very complex, very advanced feature. Yeah. And if you're an AnyDo user, you've seen how much emphasis we put on making things simple. Yeah. And so we're working very hard on the product side to do something very simple doing that. Other than that, you do have some repetition options in the Android application itself, but you don't have it on your iPhone version of AnyDo. So.
Okay, you guys are now on iPhone and on Chrome. So, firstly, how many downloads have you seen on Android itself?
So we've seen over 2 million downloads just on Android.
Okay.
Yeah. And on iOS, we announced that we had like 100,000 downloads in the first day, and on Chrome, I think we're now somewhere around 60,000 downloads.
Okay, good. And you've always said that Taskers was an experiment for you, that you were looking to learn a few things. So, what exactly did you learn from the app's experience?
Yeah, so one of the things, I don't know how many of you are actually familiar with Taskers, but one of the general ideas that we had at the time was had two tasks. One is for the to-dos, and the other one was for the done list, the things that you removed from your tasks. And for example, we started with those two tabs, and over time we decided to cut those tabs and have the done list, somewhere else in the product. It was not, it was not as important for users as just seeing their tasks. So that's one of the things that changed from Taskers to AnyDo. Changed from Taskers inside Taskers, but then when we built AnyDo, we took much more emphasis. Taskers was never well designed as AnyDo, in my opinion. Taskers was never as sleek as AnyDo, in my opinion. So there's a lot of things that we've learned. And I think we worked very hard to simplify the product, and I think that's one of the major reasons that AnyDo became such an interesting part of the Android ecosystem, because it did something that a lot of people do, that is managing their tasks, but in a very simple and compelling way. So that's my answer for that.
Okay. And so basic questions. What phone do you personally use?
What font?
Yeah, what phone?
What phone do okay. Yes, I have a Galaxy Nexus. Okay. I have a Galaxy Nexus, and yeah.
Okay, and from your perspective, what has been your biggest challenge while developing for Android, your teams?
I think that building the UI was very hard for us. I think that the smart integrations with the OS were simpler, but building the UI that actually looks very good and is fast and it's and it's intuitive, that was the most complicated thing. It took us a while. I don't know. I think, in my opinion, Anydo is one of those apps that actually, leveled up the type of apps on Android, and I think that going forward will continue being that kind of app. But that took us a lot of time and a lot of effort to build something that is as sleek as our current app.
Roughly, how long did it take you to build the app?
Let me think. I think it's around 6 months, maybe a bit more.
Okay. And in terms of monetization, can you tell us about your experience, your strategy, or something?
Yeah, so Anydo doesn't really, we don't really tell our business model. But what I can say is that, as I said earlier, we're trying to reinvent the way people get things done. And so that's where the business model comes from. If we can help you in doing one of the things you want to do, it's highly monetizable. It's highly monetizable because there are a lot of other service providers and action providers that can actually help you in getting your things done. And by doing so, Anydo can build a sustainable business going forward, so we can actually delight users and make them and still provide them with a fantastic app. And it creates this ecosystem in which users are starting to get great value from the app itself, just as it do, but also from the types of things that we can suggest to them. In terms of the action providers, they're getting great users that are interested in doing something, and they can actually provide them with value, and we can, and we are the underlying ecosystem behind it. So everybody wins.
And what would you like to see in the future versions of Android?
What would I like to see? I'd like to see. I think the most important thing, which connects with my former answer, is I wish Android was easier to develop, great GUI. I wish it was easier for future Android versions to make very slick, very simple products simply. That's one of the major things that I think are the biggest barriers of Android at the moment. I think it's actually smarter in a lot of ways than other platforms, but I think it lacks the ability to create great user interface in a simple way. And I think that should be the focus of Android going forward.
And final question now. If you could give one tip to fellow Android developers, particularly regarding taking their app and building a startup out of it, what would it be?
I think it's at the very early stages of Anydo with Taskos, we were very well connected with our users. Every user that sent us an email, we would have answered him in a matter of minutes. Every user, we hear what he has to say. We're trying to address his problems or suggestions. I think that at the very early stages of your startup or app or whatever, we want to be very well connected on the one hand. On the other hand, I think it's very important for the entrepreneurs of you guys, that is, to have a story that actually explains how do you take a specific app and you build like a company out of it. How do you take a simple app and you build a business that is sustainable and makes revenues and makes people happy and creates an ecosystem in which it's it has a very strong position in the market. And I think that's something that is very important for growing from a product to a startup. Having this strategy, having this vision, and being able and executing it.
Okay. I'll just wait a minute. There's someone who wanted to paste a question to you, so if he's able to do it pretty soon. I think we're kind of out of time. Yeah. Thanks for joining me in, Omar, and best of luck. Great product, as
Thank you very much.
I've always said. Thanks. See you around. Bye, guys.